And that was such a funny story.
Which one?
Wow. I mean, all the stories that you just told, I mean, gold.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
That was APG
Absolutely.
gold.
Yeah.
Hey, what'd you guys do
just
with?
Can't repeat that kind of thing.
No. What'd you guys do with Rick though?
We shit canned him.
You can't say that.
Oh, we're live. Sorry. Sorry, Rick. Sorry, everybody. There's nobody listening. There's nobody there. Look, they're all trying to find us.
We succeeded in destroying our audience. There he is.
Pretty close.
All right, I'm back.
There he is.
He's back.
What did you do, Rick, to destroy this whole thing?
Christ, Rick, will you stop doing that? You and your bloody Boeing stuff.
My Boeing black magic.
Yeah.
Hey, man, don't hate the player, hate the game.
It's anti-computer. That's what your Boeings are.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have to apologize. It was operator error. And I'm just not, clearly, I'm not in the same league as the Boeing and Airbus and Steph world.
Whatever it is that I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so
it was only a very little cable.
In my defense, I did plug in the Apple Power charger to the outlet in the floor.
I remember.
And then what happened to it?
Magnet.
But I neglected to connect the other part to the and my MacBook. Yeah, because did you see any warning on our screen that said
Apple didn't come up?
You're running low on battery power.
I mean,
You don't have the little battery icon like up in the top right
Well, I
corner
do in the very top of the screen, but I have so many dang windows open.
Yeah, you have like 400 windows open. It's impossible to tell what's going on.
But still, normally when this happens, you get this little dialogue that comes up and it says, "We'd like to go low power mode."
I mean, my iPad does.
You have less than 10%.
Yeah, my phone, my watch, everything. It's like
iOS.
I know it's not an excuse, but
my $2 calculator.
Yeah, everything. But
even
unless
my
we
beer
just didn't
gives
see
me a
it.
warning when it's running out.
Yeah.
Those of us who are used to flying mechanical airplanes, we don't think about that, Jeff. But the rest of us who fly electrical airplanes, 30 minutes battery life. That's when you want to be on the ground.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We should have been on the ground a long time ago. We're in very dangerous territory.
We were still airborne. All the batteries ran out, and we did the old flick, spin, crash, burn, die.
So we're sitting here in the midst. I don't even know what we were talking about now, but all of a sudden, basically, the screen just went completely blank.
Yep.
And we're going.
You had like a half-second warning though, because someone said something like, "Ooh." And then
it sounded exactly like a cockpit voice recorder, like a CVR.
Oh, no.
Right before impact.
Just before that, they go, "Oh,
yeah."
It's exactly what it sounded like.
Well, I hope that's the only time you hear my voice saying that on a voice recorder.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, man.
The consequences are far less on a podcast.
Gosh. Well, folks, I really do need to apologize. That was my fault. Obviously, I didn't ensure that the thing. I didn't even look at the amount of power.
There are only about 57 cables here to worry about. So.
Yeah, but it's still no excuse. I should know what I'm doing. I don't. Sorry. Okay.
That's quite all right.
I mean, it's not like you've not done this, 242 times in the past or anything.
You've
actually done more.
200.
I know it's more, but I don't know how many more.
Plus like the other 100 episodes
50,
of Catholic Pilot.
41 or 42 of those.
So I'm just saying.
Yeah. You never.
But we'll ignore those. We'll give you a grace period on those. So 242.
I'm still learning.
By the way, we've managed to achieve 3% of power on this.
Up to 3%.
Moving up.
I'm not confident.
But it has not gone over that.
That's true.
Yeah, to keep a good eye on that.
I don't think we should talk too much because
I'm not going to connect this thing to it. In fact, I'm going to unplug that right there. So we're not going to have the iPad. Okay.
Well, I think before all of that fiasco or whatever it is you're calling it happened, we were on Chris's feedback about dog walks. And
No. We were talking about the 757 and how the fact that it's got Rolls Royce engine on it.
That's his feedback.
The hair in the back of his neck stand up.
Yep,
Okay.
that's his feedback.
Oh, okay. Good. So
that
It
should have
just
been
is
a warning
titled
to
dog walks, but
hair on
okay.
the back of your head. You know, I should have
Oh,
known
gotcha.
something was about to happen.
Rick called it. He said, "What? That they're going to quit?" And then you guys disappeared.
Yeah. That was all for theatrical effect. Actually,
Foreshadowing.
We actually meant to do this. So
there was
it worked out
actually
perfectly,
nothing
guys.
wrong over here. I did not forget to plug in my computer. That's all made up. I told Captain Nick. So when we come back, I'm going to claim that it was like the hotel power blacked out or something.
Yeah, no problem, Jeff.
And I said, then you can let everybody know the truth.
It really was a hotel power cut.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So. Okay.
Well, I reckon we almost got to the end of that, but
I don't remember this
if
part.
it's not paying, I'm not going.
I don't remember the second part. We
I don't
talked
think I
about
read
the
that
first
paragraph.
part. We didn't get really into the criticisms or compliments of the flight crew, but
that's true.
The criticism?
Wherever you want.
Yeah, that was the first paragraph. So Nick, when you're flying as a passenger, whether it be on holiday or deadheading or whatever, do you ever compliment / criticize the flight crew for the way they're flying the airplane or the way they're doing their public addresses or anything like that? Or
if I get a chance, I always compliment.
Even if it's terrible?
Even if it's terrible.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? That makes me feel bad because he's always complimenting me. So maybe that means that he really doesn't think. Oh, okay. So whatever you're saying to me, then I can now I can like not really count on for being the
Don't
truth.
infer too much out of that.
Okay.
I just think that, you know, when you were sitting back there as a passenger and you've had a lovely meal and a few glasses of wine and watched a few movies and you've pulled your duvet up around your chin and had a beautiful sleep. And
Listen to this world he lives in. A duvet he's pulling up. The rest of us are like trying to keep, knock the elbows of the people off next to us in the middle seat. You
got the guy who's drooling on your shoulder. You're going.
Yeah, I had porridge on a newspaper on my flat tankers last week. Which is great.
Nice.
Guys,
what are you talking about duvet?
I feel for you. And then eventually some pretty girl wakes you and gives you a lovely glass of orange.
What are you talking about?
What's this world you're living in, Nick?
Full English, if you feel like it, and you
gosh,
you go
glass chandelier on top.
This is why he's able to give so many compliments, because he's just all warm and
you think to yourself, I've just had this gorgeous flight in 8 hours, and those guys at the front, possibly only just 2 of them, have just worked solidly through the night. I'm willing to accept a little bit of roughness because they've just done a great job.
So
here. That was awesome.
Have you ever traveled with your lovely wife and
many times
something goes not quite the way that you don't say, Julie, I can't believe that this idiot is flying the airplane like this in a certain way, or he has not said anything on the PA regarding our delay or anything like that?
No.
Wow. You're a good person.
We work in a great industry. We've got some really true professionals working for us.
I do tell you. I mean, I do tend to, particularly when flying into places where I know that a constant descent can be accomplished. For example, it really gets me when I see the speed brakes come out, and granted, I don't know what's going on up in the flight deck, but speed brakes come out, middle of the night, no traffic around. The guy gets down, or the gal gets down, super fast, levels off, and then the power goes on, and then he does that again, and then again, and that's like,
I mean, and I have to say, Rick, I'm exactly the same. When I'm doing a CDA approach, and I'm trying to make a constraint, and I'm just going to be there perfectly, and then traffic suddenly reduce my speed. They say, "Oh, slow down," and you suddenly realize, well, I can't knock 50 knots off and still make the constraint. So what are you going to do? You got to put the damn speed brakes out. It just really annoys me because you're just flying this perfect, smooth, perfectly judged energy approach.
Oh yeah.
And now they've given you an extra constraint and you've got to use the brakes. And the 330 is dreadful for this because it's such a slick aeroplane and with such a high aspect ratio that it's really hard to get rid of that speed when you're given an additional constraint and you just got too much energy. And I feel for you. It annoys absolutely. Me too. Yeah.
It's and you end up
of course in a 747 got so much drag, such an old flat iron aeroplane that you just, all you have to do is pull a few percent of power off and then everything stops in midair.
Well,
modern aeroplanes
we do have a speed restriction for RVSM airspace of 0.90 Mach, which the 330 could not do if it was on fire on its way down.
No, you're quite right. But at 15 tons a minute of fuel burn, I suppose, that's worth the penalty.
But I tell you what, the other day I was flying into Incheon in Seoul, South Korea, and I was actually along with a very, very good friend of mine, Mike Griffith, who is a APG listener, community member, and runs the Atlas Teamster Action Network message. It's basically a podcast, a bi-monthly podcast he puts out regarding stuff that has to do with the company and the pilot group. And basically, we're flying into Incheon, and the air traffic control. It was the middle of the night. Air traffic control thought they'd give us a little bit of a shortcut, and they kept us a little bit higher on the approach. I was actually anticipating flying not the entire procedure, because I kind of did, foresee them giving us a little bit of a shortcut, but I did not foresee them actually giving us the shortcut they gave us. So ended up getting down super fast. And one thing on the 747 that I was not really, used to, is the fact that the 7.4, the speed brake on the 747 works a lot like the speed brake on the 737, which basically means that you have a flight detent, which restricts the travel of the speed brake lever to the midpoint. That was not the case on the 7.5 and the 7.6, where you were actually able to bring the speed brake lever all the way aft. And so they basically made us, slow to 250 at 10,000 feet. So as Captain Nick said, you can either slow down or go down. You can't do both at the same time. So what I did was, coming down dropping like a piano, get to just about 11,000 feet. I used vertical speed mode and reduced my vertical speed descent to about 300-400 feet a minute. Fly somewhat of a level segment there, slow down. And once I get down to 250, I resumed the descent on flight level change or open descent, put the speed brake out, and I was below 250, so I could start putting flaps out. So I'd actually never put flaps out for a descent at 10,000 feet. And we got, down and got to we made our constraint fine, and we were able to fly the approach stabilized and all that. But it was interesting how I'd never actually done a real slam dunk approach like I did that other day, and that was quite interesting. So, but again, I do love a well flown approach, managing that energy and not touching the speed brake if I can help it.
All right. Well, you guys are much better people than I am.
Well, we all know you can't take the throttles to idle because the airplane depressurizes. Is that right?
Well, in a way, you're right.
You've admitted as much in the past.
Yeah, it doesn't keep up very well.
No, we understand that. So constant descent angle approach is a bit of an anathema.
No, everybody that I fly with tries to do it, and everybody's ears are popping, babies are screaming. When it's not my leg,
maxillary sinus is about to explode.
Yeah, like blood all over the cockpit.
In the back.
People are getting out of the airplane with like bloody ears. Thanks a lot.
and they just happen to be as nice as Nick. They're getting off the plane. They're like, "Thanks, guys. Nice flight. Good landing.
Thanks for clearing out my sinuses." All right, let's go on with Chris. I would love to be a pilot. Wouldn't we all? When I was in secondary school, I'm not sure of the equivalent in America, we were to have work experience. I wrote to all the airlines out of Manchester. Out of maybe 10, one responded. The airline was called Air 2000. I was meant to have a week of work experience with the company, learning to process of flight planning, catering, crewing, and flying. On the 5th day, I was told that I'd be flying to Faro to observe the flight deck. We took off on a beautiful Manchester day and headed south to Faro. Is that right, Faro?
Yeah, that's Faro in Portugal.
It's Faro away. The captain once at cruise said to me, "Would I like to fly the aircraft?" I instantly jumped at the chance. There I was, a 16-year-old kid flying my favorite aircraft, the excellent Boeing 757. I hand flew a few waypoints and then handed back to the captain. Anyway, we flew the return sector back to Manchester. This time I was in full Air 2000 uniform, and was then surprised to be asked if I would like to help with the service. I, of course, said yes, but I knew my heart belonged in the cockpit. Service over, the first officer approached me and asked if I would like to join them in the cockpit once again for landing. Once we touched down in Manchester, a new 757 was arriving from Boeing. We watched in airside the aircraft have the water cannon christening. Walking onto that aircraft, an aircraft that brand new smell lingered. Maybe let me read that one again. Walking onto the aircraft, that brand new smell.
It's an aerosol spray they use. It's a Boeing cheat.
New airplane smell.
Yeah, new airplane smell. Yeah, Boeing use it all the time.
I get that all the time.
A bunch of
that airplane was
new,
actually 25 years old.
Yeah,
exactly.
Hanging them all around.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely enjoying the show. Not sure the dog is, though. Oh, poor dog.
He's like, now I've got to walk for 3.5 hours.
Its paws are all bloodied.
Yeah, give the dog some earphones. It can join in.
Actually, dogs enjoy the show.
Yeah.
I promise.
Yeah, Taco.
Well, yeah, Taco loves the show.
Mm-hmm.
You all complimented each other so well, and the show was first class. I've enjoyed watching the...
Oh, Jeff, you're such a wonderful chap.
You are the best Captain Nick that I know.
Well, marvelous compliment. Thank you very much.
Steph, you look lovely tonight.
Thank you.
Rick,
I really like the tie. And
Rick, Rick, you're a little green, but for a Boeing bloke, that's not bad.
Well, it's all that Airbus talk's got a little nauseous.
Touche.
What happened to the compliments? Oh.
That was it. That was the best I could do. Come on.
It doesn't last very long. We all love each other. That's true. All right. Mike writes, several friends and I took a trip and visited the U.S. Air Force Museum, and it is amazing. While we were there walking through the C-141, they had on display... while we were walking through the C-141 that they had on display, we found something mounted hanging from the ceiling of the cargo section just outside of the restroom. It was a yellow pole about 6 feet long that had what looked like a plunger on one end and a glass mason jar on the other end. No one seemed to know what it was. Can you help us with what this device may be? And then he attached a photo of it. Now, I'm not absolutely
Science
positive.
Experiment.
It could be, but I think what it actually is a device for the flight engineer / scanner to go out and push the yellow pole up under the wing and into the what we call the sump drains of the wing fuel tanks. I think it's a device to check the to see if the fuel is pure or if it has any water in it, whatever. But what do they call this?
Really? Like a fuel strainer?
Fuel strainer. Yeah.
Cessna type stuff? Oh, wow.
Do that stuff all the time. Take my little cup with the metal pointy end and sump the fuel.
But honestly, it's been such a long time since I've flown that airplane. I'm not absolutely positive about that, but that's my guess as to what that thing was. And it's a big long pole. I don't know about the plunger part. Maybe that's also.
You mentioned it was right outside of the toilet, the restroom.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just.
Well, maybe it's a dual-use tool. It's a sump pump, fuel strainer / toilet plunger.
Toilet plunger. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The Air Force tries to be efficient.
And when you've got it soaked in fuel, you could use it for your
a tiki torch.
Yeah.
That's what that is, actually. It's a tiki torch.
It's multi-purposeful.
And it has a plunger on the end, so it stays on the wing. You can actually go out there. We have parties on the top of
barbecue
the wing.
On the wing.
Yeah,
great.
Attach it upside down. An upside down tiki torch.
We lost a few, but it was worth it. Okay. Colin. writes in. He says that I came across this article, wanted to forward it along to you. Keep up the great work on the podcast. And he's from Chicago. And this is an Aviation Week and Space Technology article about this system that they've installed, at least on the F-16, perhaps other jets, called Auto GCAS. That's Auto GCAS, which stands for Ground Collision Avoidance System. And it's a really good article. You should read it if you already haven't done so to this point. And they have a video of the HUD, and it shows the flight. It was a training flight, and one of the students in the F-16, they were doing some advanced combat maneuvering, and apparently pulled so many G's that he blacked out and became unconscious. And this auto GCAS system basically took control of the airplane, recovered from this dive, and saved him. And he was able to regain consciousness and lived through it. So
I think he pulled out like at 4,000 feet or something. I saw it was pretty impressive video. HUD stands for heads-up display, just in case.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
gals out there.
The big problem with G-lock, it's not like the usual going unconscious. G-lock is when you apply G very rapidly, and the blood vessels in the throat constrict automatically under instructions from the brain to try and preserve a blood pressure in the brain. And they can only do that for 2 or 3 seconds. And then they have to release because the brain needs continuous flow. And you can go from being perfectly conscious to dropping unconscious in a moment. And when that type of unconsciousness occurs, when you come around, when you relax the G on the aircraft and you come around, you've lost all your short-term memory. The brain has been driven into a state where it really is very confused, and it can take 15 or 20 seconds even to realize you're in an airplane, let alone what attitude you're in, the fact you're blown towards the ground.
Is it kind of like what we just experienced when my computer shut down in the middle of the hangout?
Just about, except that was a lot longer. And we went plummeting towards the ground. But apart from that, it was very similar.
A very useful piece of automation and technology.
This is absolutely, because G-lock has killed so many pilots. It's not like the normal G onset, which is slow and progressive because you're applying it. Modern aircraft can pitch into such high G situations at so fast that G-lock has become a big problem. And this is an ideal way to prevent it. It wasn't in any of the aircraft I ever flew, but I know obviously saved this bloke's life. So that's brilliant.
Yeah, it said that after only 22 seconds, the F-16 was. He had it in full afterburner, by the way. After only 22 seconds, the F-16 was nose down, almost 50 degrees below the horizon, and going supersonic. The shocked instructor called 2, recover, as the student passed through 12,320 feet at 587 knots. 2 seconds later, with the nose down in a 55-degree dive, altitude at 10,800 feet and speed passing 613 knots. The worried instructor again calls 2, recover, and a little less than another 2 seconds as the now frantic instructor makes a third call for the student pilot to pull up. The auto GCAS executes a recovery maneuver at 8,760 feet and 652 knots. The student pilot at this point comes around, pulls back on the stick, and let's see, momentarily increasing G's beyond the auto GCAS standard recovery level of 5 to 9.1. That's a lot of G, 9.1.
Yeah.
Minimum altitude by now is around, as Rick said, 4,370 feet, with as little as 2,940 feet indicated on the radar altimeter. Wow. So it's an excellent system. I mean, this is a perfect use for, I mean, there are a lot of perfect uses for automation, but this is one that really is saving lives, and it really makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
Very much.
I agree with that 100%.
So good job, whoever came up with this system, and that's fantastic. So thank you, Colin, for sending us the link. And folks, if you're listening, you got to look at that link and that video, because it is very impressive. The gun camera, or whatever you want to call it, the head-up display video footage is pretty cool. All right. Does Captain Nick know about this? I don't know. Let's ask him.
I don't know.
Well,
what airline's this?
This is Larry Gregory in Tulsa. Well, this is one of the sister airlines of Acme Red, Virgin Atlantic, to begin low carbon jet fuel flight trials in 2017. And Larry Gregory thinks that this has something to do with chemtrail dispersing agents. So
yeah, it could be. You know, we've heard so much about chemtrails. There's no smoke without fire.
Yeah.
So yeah, good chance.
I mean, we joke about it on this show, but really, we're just joking about it because we're trying to hide the truth.
Well, yeah.
Exactly.
Truth is out there.
But I can't admit it on the air.
We can't confirm nor deny.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Well,
absolutely.
That's all we can say then.
But Larry, it sounds like they've got some really clever petrol in these engines.
I'm looking at this article. What a beautiful airplane that is.
That's an amazing looking airplane. Look at that. Look at that wing.
What's wrong with it?
It's one of Nick's favorites, I think.
Look at those lines.
Don't you love that airplane, Nick?
Looks like it's going 0.9 Mach. Sure. Just configured for landing. It's just wow.
There's something very odd about that. It's
flying.
Written on it.
It's flying right.
Why is it? Is it upside down again?
All right. Let's move on.
You're not going to say what the
what?
It's a beautiful.
It's actually about
787.
No, they're going to have to look at the link in the show notes.
Oh, okay. There you go, folks.
It's about clever fuel. It's about recovering fuel from plastic bottles. I don't know.
I have no idea. I didn't read it.
It is. All right.
There you go. So I'm going to look in the show notes and click on the link and read it myself. Yeah. Thank you, Larry.
Perfect.
This is from, he phonetically spelled his name because I keep screwing it up. Vinicius, right? Vinicius. He says, "Hello, APG crew. Here is Vinicius. I know that's not important, but I'd like to correct the pronunciation of my name." Okay, so I think I've got it. Vinicius. But anyway.
Why does he spell it Vinny Klaus?
I don't know.
An I think.
So he spells it Vinicius.
He's just capitalizing the C and third I.
Oh, okay.
It's not an L.
Yeah, I mean, as usual, Jeff has got the screen so
here. Let me blow it up
to read it.
Captain Nick level. There you go. Can you see it now?
All right. Yeah, Vinny Klaus.
Okay.
I think say Vinicius. It says Vinny Klaus.
I'm sorry, but Vinicius, I think you're mispronouncing your own name. Anyway, have you seen this video about the flight attendant from Southwest Airlines that spoke to the passengers with a Looney Tunes voice? It was very funny, and you know what?
I'd go along to say as most of our flight attendants are actually Looney Tunes, so that's quite normal for them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me see here. You know what? I looked up this, but I think I actually chose the wrong. I actually went through and recorded something and everything else, and then I realized that I recorded a Southwest flight attendant doing rap, not doing the Looney Tunes voice. So here, let me. We're going to do this on the fly here, and I'm going to enter this address into Firefox.
I'm just curious, Jeff. Why did you do that?
Because this is what happened when I went to his link that he gave us.
Oh,
it gave me a bad link.
Oh,
page is not available anymore. So here,
Vinny Klaus, your link's useless.
Looney. Of course, if I had actually covered this feedback within like 3 or 4 weeks of him sending it, perhaps that link would have been active. Okay, I'm going to say Looney Tunes Southwest. Isn't this great radio that we're doing?
Nice.
Fascinating podcasting.
We can't wait.
Let me try this one. Here we go.
Shh, be very, very quiet. We have reached your destination. What's up, Ducks? This is Bugs Bunny here, and on behalf of this flight crew and Southwest Airlines, welcome to Chicago, the Windy City. Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened, seatbacks and tray tables in the full upright and locked position, and make sure all your carrying items are stowed where they are. When the captain joins off the fasten seatbelt sign, please be careful when opening up the overhead bins, for items may have shifted during flight and could fall out. And trust me, you wouldn't want to get a bump on the noggin. Ooh, We also want to wish good luck to the Utah Valley's University men's soccer team. They are ranked top 20 in the nation. The Green Team, or should I say the Dream Team. Oh, you screwy wabbit. You may now use your small, portable electronic devices, but please remain seated with your carry-on stowed. Oh, brother, listen, folks. Please be advised the aircraft doors will be open during ground service, right? For your safety, and any children, husbands, or sports teams you are supervising, please remain clear of the front and back doors. This goes for you too, Elliot. If you're connected here to another...
Okay, so you get a little taste of that. That was about a little over half of it. We'll put the... I actually found a good link this time to the
good
performance. It's pretty talented.
Would have been
I'll tell you what, though,
he hadn't actually had to introduce himself as Bugs Bunny.
I'm actually kind of glad they did in fact take that left turn at Albuquerque. They made their destination. So
that's how they got there. Apparently, they were coming from Utah, though. So Utah, left turn at Albuquerque, Chicago.
So they got it right this time.
Makes perfect sense. Yeah, perfect sense.
Thank you, Vinicius, for that bit of feedback. Let's see. Here's a good one. Joseph writes, this might be something that Steph can help us with because it's kind of medically related. My question today, or do you want to read it, Miss Steph?
I can read it if you would like. So Joseph says, greetings, APG crew. My question today regards motion/air sickness. I am looking to get into aviation. However, I'm not the best traveler. I find that I have no issues in a car when I'm in control or can see and predict/foresee upcoming shifts in the road/speed, etc. My question is, if you have any ideas on desensitizing and your ideas on being informed of upcoming power, pitch, and bank changes would reduce the effects of motion sickness. Is it a career deal breaker? This is my first post to you, and I'd like to thank each of you for your valuable input to broadening our knowledge. Wishing you uneventful flights. Joe from Australia. So, the sense I'm getting from Joe is that he has not actually gone out and taken a discovery flight or tried to fly an aircraft on his own as of yet. I will say that I think there's a lot of people out there who deal with motion sickness issues if they are not the one who's personally in control of whatever vehicle is that they're operating. So whether that's a car, whether that's an airplane, if you don't have access to those visual cues, it is very easy for a lot of people to become air sick/motion sick because there are other senses and inputs that you get from your body, whether it's in the inner ear, vestibular type stuff, whether it's proprioceptive input, in the way that your body feels like it's moving. If you can't link that up with what your eyes are telling you, or if there's a mismatch there, for some people, they're very sensitive to that, and it can make you feel sick, uneasy, not the greatest. So I think in general, we've talked about this a little bit before. Most people are able to overcome this. For most people, it is better if you are the one who's in control of whatever vehicle you're operating. So if that's a plane, if you're the one who's flying the airplane, or even if you're not flying the airplane, but if you're sitting up front with a view out the front window, a lot of times it's going to be a lot easier to manage some of those symptoms than it is if you're sitting in the back with your window shade shut and not getting those visual cues in addition to the other sensory cues that you might be getting from your body. So, my advice would be, if you're interested in getting into aviation or being a pilot, I don't think there's anything better than going out and taking an intro flight. It's going to be relatively short duration. You can discuss those things with the instructor beforehand. Say, I have issues if I'm not the one in control of the vehicle with motion sickness, and they can make sure that it's, they're choosing an appropriate day for you to go flying. First of all, where it's not going to hopefully be too windy, bumpy, turbulent, whatever the case may be. That they're choosing, that they're not going to do anything unusual with the aircraft, like, hey, watch this type of stuff.
Yeah, make sure you go on an extra 300. That's what you want to fly. An extra 300.
Exactly.
I'm just kidding.
And, give you the opportunity to control the aircraft, manipulate the flight controls, and see how you do with it. And, even if you do still have issues, most people can get past that. Sometimes it takes a couple of flights. I've definitely talked to people in the past who still have issues, even when they're the ones who are flying, driving, whatever. But most people are able to get past that. There's very, very few people who are not able to. And then even, getting into things that make people a little bit more queasy, turbulence, IMC type flight, that's all stuff that you can actually train yourself, desensitize yourself on. The more you do it, the more familiar your body becomes with it, the less likely it is to make you air sick, car sick, whatever the case may be.
We used to have a significant number of navigators in the Air Force staff that suffered from air sickness because, of course, they never get to fly the airplane. They're always sitting in the back, often with a very restricted view.
Right.
And the Air Force ran an air sickness course, which was done by the aeromedic pilots that we had. And they would take the guys up in a jet aircraft, a Hunter. They had a couple of two-seaters. And they would, first of all, desensitize them in boxes. They would, these kind of motion boxes that you get in aeromedical schools where, it's just like a simulator, but there's no visuals at all. And you just sat in a box that moves in all directions. And you can spin someone around in it. And then they'd fly them. And it was just a matter of making them accustomed to the feelings. And they would take to the point where they would start to feel sick, and then they would always back off. So after a while, regurgitating with motion becomes a reflex, and the idea is to break that connection. So they managed to achieve that with great success, taking people up to the point and then backing away so that they could successfully complete a trip without being sick, and then they just reinforce that over and over again until they were cured.
Yeah. And just remember that if you're not sensitized to doing this type of stuff, our main, for most of us, as long as you have normal vision and are using your eyes in a normal fashion, the visual system is going to be your main source of cue for what your body is doing in space. So if all of a sudden you take away that, or it doesn't jive with what else is going on, what your body's feeling, that's one of the main reasons why people become ill, nauseated, sick. So it makes a big difference if you're the one driving the plane, if you're up front, if you have access to view out the window, if you're the one manipulating the controls, because like you said, then you do know what you're intending to do and there's no surprise there. You're not all of a sudden going to be going one direction when you were anticipating going another direction. So, and then like Nick said, the rest of that you can sort of work towards being desensitized on, and the more you do it, the more familiar your body will be. It's like, oh, hey, no, I expect to know what's coming next, and it might not be what I'm expecting, but it's not any reason to, lose my lunch over it.
Yeah, I think that desensitization, if that's the right word, is a big part of it. I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but when we started, using our smartphones, and we'd be in, let's say, the bus, like the crew bus or whatever, and, you were trying to do, Twitter or whatever on your phone, it kind of like, you kind of started feeling woozy and you go, okay, I got to look away. I can't look at this anymore. But then over time, the more we did it, the more now I can all day long be in a vehicle and doing all kinds of stuff on my phone. It doesn't bother me anymore. I think it takes a while for your brain and your body to kind of sync up and understand, okay, I'm going to ignore these calculations or whatever in my system, and I'm going to be okay with it. I don't know.
And it's exactly right. I mean, it all goes down to, and if being a pilot is what you decide to be or become later on down the road, there's going to be a portion of your training, your initial training, where you're going to learn to fly the aircraft basically by instruments alone, and that can be a little challenging at first because it really is at first trying to understand what your attitude is in space and what your position is and where you are, and that's kind of hard to figure out if you're not able to look outside. And so that's why what Steph and Captain Nick and Captain Jeff are talking about, the fact that once you can kind of desensitize or break that connection between your sensory system feeling something versus your visual system seeing something else. If you can kind of break that connection apart, and then I think you should be in good shape. That's kind of, I've never been want to get motion sick. But I do remember when I first started training on IFR flight, it did take a little bit of getting used to, and when actually flying, when I did my first couple of flights in true IMC or instrument conditions, it does take the brain a little bit of getting used to, because it's something that you're not, it's something that you're not used to doing. And so it does take a little bit of getting used to. But once you get past that, then it should be all right.
And I'd like to add one more thing. In the Air Force, when I was in a pilot training instructor, I was the assistant flight commander or flight captain. I forget exactly which one of those is the right term. But I was in our flight, in our training squadron, I was the number 2 person, because I'd just come back in from flying the 141. And so I was a little bit more senior than some of the new instructors. And so I got put into this position because that's what they want to put you in, to kind of groom you to become a flight commander. And that's great. The bad part of that is that guess who gets to fly with all the problem students? The assistant flight commander. And I really pride myself, and I think I've mentioned this on previous episodes, the fact that the students that I had to fly with were ones that were getting really, really close to being eliminated from Air Force pilot training, because mostly they were getting sick. They were just, they're getting air sick, and they couldn't make it through a sortie without getting sick. And I found that the thing, and every single one of them, I managed to get them through and graduate the T-37 program and go into T-38s. And I believe every single one of them went on to fly their career in the Air Force without a problem. And what I noticed was that 2 things. One, which we've been talking about, the motion of the airplane. A lot of the young instructors that these guys were flying with were equating being aggressive with being jerky and, not smooth with their control inputs. And aggressive flying doesn't equate to being jerky. I mean, you can be a very aggressive fighter pilot without, really jerking the airplane around.
Oh, you're quite right, Jeff. I mean, that kind of mishandling just kills energy.
Right.
A good pilot conserves his energy by entering maneuvers as smoothly and as positively as he can.
And one of the best pilots I've ever flown with in my life was a previous F4 pilot. And when I went up with him, he was very aggressive, but it was like the smoothest pilot I've ever flown with in my life. I was very impressed by that. So that's number 1. But the other thing was the pressure to perform, because every single thing that you're doing when you're going through pilot training, especially in the military, is graded. Every aspect of the flight. I mean, before you even get out to the flight line and start doing your pre-flight for the airplane, it's all being evaluated. And you have immense pressure to perform at a certain level, which is a very high level. And the combination of those 2 things, I found, was causing these students to really have trouble. And it was a physical thing, and it was also an emotional, mental, psychological thing. And when I went with them, I was very laid back, and I said, "That's okay. We're going to make it through this program. We're going to do whatever we need to do to get you to understand how to do these maneuvers." And I flew it very, very smoothly. And as I said, the only person that's ever gotten sick with me was when I went into the phase of flying called pilot qualification, or we call it P-qual, where pilots like myself who came from a different weapon system, like I was from 141s, F-16s, C-130s, whatever, and they come back to be an instructor in pilot training, they have to be qualified in the airplane before they go off to instructor school. And so I thought, wow, this is a nice, easy job. I'm flying with rated pilots. They already know how to fly. I'm not flying with a student that's going to kill me. But one of the sorties that we take up these guys to get qualified in the T-37 was a spin ride. And what that meant was that you go out to the area, and the whole 1.3 hour sortie was doing nothing but spins and spin recoveries. And it was in the middle of that sortie when the C-130 pilot I was flying with basically said, "You have the airplane." And I said, "Excuse me?" We were right in the middle of the spin. We're just going all around. And he said, "You got it." And then all of a sudden he just barfed and just
oh no,
it was a mess. We were wearing oxygen masks, but So that helps contain some of the mess. But still, I looked at him and I said, you know what? I had a perfect record. Nobody has ever gotten sick flying with me until you. And a rated pilot. And I tried not to be too hard on him, but anyway.
You know what, though? So, I mean, who knows what else was going on with him? Maybe he was recovering from being ill. Maybe he had eaten the wrong thing. It honestly can happen to anyone at any time.
On, Steph, he had a hangover.
That's probably true. Yeah, you know, it has nothing. I wasn't
going to say it explicitly, but I've seen it happen to plenty of people who.
Right. Don't infer because he was a C-130 pilot that. Because I flew with a huge number of. Let me put the record straight here. C-130 guys fly really demanding missions and experience all kinds.
We're about to find out. We're gonna hear C.J. Hammer soon.
Yeah, that's right. Wow, what a great transition. Maybe we should.
Awesome segue.
Do you want to talk any more about this? I think we pretty much covered that. So basically, what we're saying is that. You know, once you are in control of the airplane, you know what's going to happen beforehand. Your body acclimates to it a little bit, and you don't put too much pressure on yourself. You should be fine.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
All right. So, what a perfect transition to this week's episode of The Old Pilot's Plane Tales. If I can find it. Here it is.
The Old Pilot's Plane Tales. A chat with C.J. Hammer, Special Forces Hercules pilot extraordinaire. Hi, everyone. We're lucky enough to have a C-130 pilot with us, an APG lover as well, C.J. Hammer, who came to Farnborough not long ago to visit and chat with us. And subsequently, I was lucky enough to get an invitation from him to visit him at Mildenhall, where we looked around his fabulous aircraft. Now, we did an interview at the time. Unfortunately, a technical problem gave us a hassle there. So we're trying again now via Skype. Not quite as perfect, but anyway. I'd like to welcome you, CJ, and perhaps you'd start up by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your career path to get to your current position.
Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, Nick, wherever it is that we're listening to the show. Yes, my name is C.J. Hammer. I'm a Lieutenant Colonel in the United States Air Force, stationed here at RAF Mildenhall, and I am a MC-130J Commando 2 pilot. Let's see, my history. I joined the Air Force back in 1991. I flew, was in the pilot training. I went through the T-37 and T-38 aircraft that Captain Jeff has mentioned many a time, and from there, I was assigned to something called the Pilot Bank. We had a few too many pilots in the U.S. Air Force back then, so they decided to send a few of us off to a non-flying assignment for a few years, and I got to be a aircraft maintenance officer. From there, I luckily was able to get back in the cockpit, flew C-130s at DIAS, and from there went to special operations. I went to Hurlburt Field, Florida, flying the MC-130 Echo, the Talon. A combat talon is what it's called. From there, went to a little bit of a non-flying stint, teaching at the Air Command and Staff College for the mid-grade officers. And from there to the MC-130W, which was a replacement for the Combat Talon 2 at Cannon Air Force Base. And from there to, I got lucky enough to get reassigned to the MC-130J there at Cannon. And from there to Mildenhall. So there's my career so far.
Excellent. That sounds fantastic. Now, the MC-130J Commando 2, apart from having one of the longest names of any aircraft I've ever come across, looked an amazing machine. How did it differ from earlier models you flew?
Well, the original C-130 has been around since the 1960s. And great machine, great airplane. And Lockheed decided to updated a bit in the 90s. The Brits, of course, being the first to purchase the airplane at the time, So thanks to you guys for purchasing that, and we eventually.
You're very welcome, CJ.
Yes. So we eventually got on the bandwagon, decided we needed to replace some of these older C-130s, and so the airplane has a lot of upgraded and updated systems. Reduces the number of crew members. Back in the old airplane, the MC-130 Echo Combat Talon that I used to fly, we had about 9 crew members. And this aircraft only requires 5 because we have a lot of automation. The flight management systems have been updated quite a bit, and has a head-up display, has upgraded engines, just a lot of things that make it a little easier for a smaller crew to operate. And that's about it.
Yeah, I must admit, it looked a very sophisticated flight deck when I got to climb in there, and you powered it up for us. I was very impressed. So what kind of roles do you undertake in this fabulous airplane, CJ?
Well, our primary mission in the MC-130, all MC-130s, is support to Special Operations Forces for infiltration, exfiltration, and refueling of special operations, both rotary wing and tilt rotor assets, to get them behind enemy lines and support the commander's requirements wherever we need to go.
Wow, that sounds great. I'm going to ask you a difficult question. So, like, what are some of your Special Forces tasks? They must be amazing. Is there anything you can tell us about?
It's very similar to what you might expect a C-130 to do. So, we transport equipments and personnel for them. We can do airdrop both at low level and they call it the Halo, free fall airdrop personnel. We drop very large boats for certain special operations forces that require them, and we can refuel the CV-22s and special operations helicopters as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. My imagination's going wild here. What are those Special Forces guys like? I guess you get to meet and chat to them a bit, do you?
Yes, we work with them quite a bit. We have at Mildenhall here. We have, as you may have heard on Marcus's podcast. I hate to cross-pollinate here, but on his Omega Tau, he just interviewed a CV-22 pilot from here at Mildenhall. We have the MC-130s. We have a special tactics team as well, and we support them in terms of making sure they're current in their airdrop, their free fall, and static line jumps. And then we have the unilateral training that we do as well, just to stay proficient in container delivery and heavy equipment drops. So that just makes us able to drop, say, a large tank or a Humvee or whatever it is that might be required to be inserted behind enemy lines. So yeah, the Special Operations Forces we work with, both here at Mildenhall and then elsewhere throughout the European theater, very professional. We also work with Special Operations Forces from other countries within Europe. And again, just really, really professional folks. They really are the best at what they do. And for the most part, they do get called when something goes down that nobody else can really deal with. So it's really a privilege to work with them.
Yeah, I bet. It seems a little odd to me having a unit like yours based in England. Isn't it a long way from where you usually need to operate?
Actually, no. We do have work with the partner nations. Like I said, the Special Operations Forces throughout Europe. We have missions that we do down in Africa, and we get called to do things in Central America. Sorry, not Central America, but the Mid-Asia and also in Eastern Europe. So really, this isn't a bad location for us. We really enjoy being here in England because the Brits have a less restrictive policy, shall we say, about low-level flying than some of the other nations within Europe. So we really get to do a lot of precision training at low level and using night vision goggles that we may not get to do elsewhere.
Okay, that's cool. We mentioned night vision goggles and low flying, so it must be difficult flying such a large aircraft at low level. What special techniques do you use, and what's it like doing it at night?
Well, in the old airplane, yeah, it was a bit difficult. The night vision goggles have evolved quite a bit. They do let you see quite a bit, and I don't say that they don't turn night completely into day, but they do let you see a lot more than you can see with the naked eye. But the old airplane, you could kind of figure out, okay, well, this is how big trees should look when you're this high, and this is how big they should look when you're higher than that. But with the current airplane, that's the MC-130J, has a heads-up display that is completely NVG compatible, so I can look through the HUD at the terrain around me and immediately see what's my terrain line, what navigational course I should be following, what radar altitude I am above the ground, how far ahead or behind schedule I am to meet up with a helicopter or to drop the personnel I want to drop right on on the second that they want to be dropped at. So really, it has a lot of capabilities that we didn't have in the old airplane. And the lighting in there, like I said, completely NVG compatible. So we don't. In the old airplane, you used to have some lighting that if it came on, it would bloom out the goggles, and you couldn't see anything else but that light. You couldn't see out the cockpit. But this one, all the lights are of a certain filter, so that you can actually see outside the window no matter what light comes on.
Excellent. So, generally speaking, your low flying is done visually, albeit with enhanced equipment.
Yes. We eventually, the aircraft is supposed to get a terrain following system, like some of the older C-130 models currently have. Doesn't have it quite yet, but that will allow us to fly at low level in all kinds of weather. But right now, we use the Mark 1 eyeball to make sure we don't hit anything.
Yeah, I was going to say that'll be exciting when you're doing it in cloud, old chap. That'll be amazing.
Yes.
Now, your aircraft is, of course, set up for tankering. I saw the pods you have on there and the baskets that you can trail back for aircraft to refuel off. Who are your usual customers?
Usually, we work with CV-22 Osprey aircraft that are located with us here at Mildenhall, and we tend to refuel up to. Supposed to fly with three of them. Last night. Ended up being a little few less. They had an issue with it, but weather was pretty bad. But we typically refuel them. We can also refuel. We've worked with the French helicopters as well over the last few months, both in France and down in Africa.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, that's amazing radius of action you take that aircraft into. I'm always impressed. So your aspects of your job, what would you say is the most enjoyable, and what are you most proud of?
Well, the chance to work with the partner nations and special operations forces, and just be able to take this wonderful machine and do some things with it that you really can't do with anything else in areas of the world that people may not even heard of and may not even know that the enemy's at. That is just really rewarding. Working with the people that we do, that they're just professionals and just the complete experts in their field, is very rewarding. And every day I look at what I do and say, wow, I can't believe they pay me to do this.
Yeah, don't keep thinking that too much, CJ. They might stop.
Yeah. Well, I hope not.
I'm sure they won't. Now, you're not going to do this forever, CJ. What does the future hold for you?
Well, funny you should mention that. I am retiring in a few months here, and I have a few applications out to hopefully be an airline pilot guy myself.
Wow.
So hopefully that'll turn out. I understand they don't do a lot of night vision goggle flying in that realm, so I hopefully won't hold that against me.
No, I don't think they will. No. Well, I wish you all the luck in the world in getting a job. Now, are you going to try and stay in the UK or Europe and work from here, or are you heading back stateside?
Most likely head back to stateside where our families are, and be a little closer to family would be nice. But certainly the experience that I've had in the C-130 all over the world, I think will come in handy hopefully later on in my career.
I'm sure it will. And when I'm an old fella, I hope one day I can climb in the back of an airplane that you'll be flying. That'd be great fun. Anyway, thank you very much indeed for giving us your time. I really appreciate it, giving us this little insight into the world of special operations. Any final things you'd like to say before we knock this on the head?
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you to the Airline Pilot Guy community. Really enjoy the show every week, and all the information that it's given me about the airline pilot world. And it was great meeting all of y'all at Farnborough, the folks that came out there. hopefully I pronounced that right. I've been practicing, right? So
Well, you've been in the UK long enough to get it right now, and that sounded fine.
All right.
Right. Well, again, thank you very much indeed. We will wish you well. Keep it up, and all the best for the future, CJ.
Thank you very much, Captain Nick.
Farnborough.
Still working on that one, huh?
Farnborough.
Yeah, it's almost time to go back. You've almost got it right.
We have 2 more years.
Yeah.
Well, just under 2 years.
There you go.
Shortly
What a great
by then
interview.
we'll have it.
He's a lovely guy, CJ. I've got so much admiration for him because he's one of those wonderfully understated blokes that doesn't make a big thing about what he does, but it's quite obvious that what he does requires a great deal of skill. And he has a lot of talent to fly that airplane into the conditions he does. And you can't go into a job like that without a brave heart as well. So I take my hat off to him.
Well, your hat's been off the whole darn time.
No, that's true. Very true. I was wearing it in this picture.
Oh, you were, yes. Lovely pictures. We'll put some of those in the show notes.
Oh, thank you.
As well. Another fantastic Plain Tales. A great, you have a lot of skills as an interviewer.
Oh, you're a gentleman, sir. Thank you.
And a storyteller as well. A very multifaceted, talented person you are.
Oh, I'm blushing now.
CJ, thanks for sharing with us. That was really cool. We appreciate it.
That was an awesome interview, man. I know a couple of C-130 pilots myself, and just flying the Herky-Bird, it's one of those airplanes that's it's a true airplane. That thing you still need to kind of muscle around a little bit and doing the kind of flying that you do close to the ground at night. Very, very demanding, and a lot of respect for you, man. Really cool. Thanks for what you're doing.
Yeah, and there's not a great deal of automation on that airplane. Hardly any at all. I tell you what, I'm really impressed with the size of the throttles. Most of us use the throttles that stick up about 6 inches.
Well, you don't have throttles, you have switches.
Those C-130 throttles are like 18 inches high. They're huge. I was really impressed.
That's a man's throttle.
They were man's throttles.
Oh my! So I'm about to play some feedback, and I guess I should warn that the views of this humorous bit of feedback are not necessarily the views held by the Airline Pilot Guy show. That's our disclaimer. So
love it. Legalese.
If you're easily offended, please don't listen. Here we go.
This is Miami Hick. Had me a crazy day today. It took me forever to get out of Florida. I was hauling a load of baby chicks out from Miami International down there. I don't know if everybody's aware, but Hillary Clinton's down in Florida hitting the campaign trail, and the airport was all a mess. I was delayed because her plane was getting ready to take off. And just as I was about to head to the runway, I got a call from the tower telling me to come back to the gate. Apparently, Bill Clinton got a hold of the manifest and saw I was hauling a load of chicks. He wanted to ride with me. And I know what you're thinking. That just sounds crazy. Well, lucky for you, as soon as I landed, I pulled the CVR recording so you all could hear it. So enjoy. Till I see you again. Miami Hick, over and out.
Hey, Miami Hick. Thanks for letting me catch a ride on your plane with you here, buddy. Well, they told me you was hauling chicks, so I couldn't resist. The thing is, I just don't see any chicks around here. When are the chicks going to get here? I hear a lot of clucking coming from the back, and it smells like a farm. I know it. I guess you're carrying real chicks, not the lady kind, right? Oh my. Well, I don't know what to say. I'm kind of embarrassed here, but well, Hillary is getting up there, and I just can't. I just can't be with her anymore. She's got her huma, and I'm really disappointed, man. I thought you had chicks in this plane, and I noticed her flying low. Maybe we could land over by that Hooters over there. They got chicks at Hooters, and we can also get some wings. I love eating chicken wings. Chicken wings are great. I like the naked wings. They remind me of naked chicks.
Hello.
Hey, what happened?
Yeah, what's going on? I'm in the middle of eating dinner here, but
Sorry. Sorry for the interruption.
ruining my dinner. Jeez.
Just keep eating, Steph.
I don't know what happened. I guess the thing didn't completely finish. That was my fault. Well, you know what?
Oh.
If you want to hear the whole thing, you're going to have to listen to the audio version of the podcast. And there you'll hear the whole
That
bit.
is just me, Captain Jeff.
Well, I didn't do that on purpose, but it's just going to be the way it works out, apparently. Really, honestly, I don't know what happened there. It just stopped.
Having said that, it was sounding pretty good. I've been looking forward to hearing the rest of it.
Let me go here. Let me see.
I know. I'd like to hear the conclusion.
The naked wigs, they remind me of naked chicks.
Yeah, okay. I don't know what. Okay, I know what I can do. No, never mind. It's going to be too much of a hassle. Yeah, you'll have to just listen to the whole darn thing on the audio podcast. Sorry about that. Those of you who are listening to the video live and after the fact.
And those of you who haven't realized, this is Captain Jeff's new idea to get you to listen to the podcast.
Pretty sneaky, huh?
Yeah.
We just play.
Good trick, Jeff.
It was almost over. Bill was wrapping it up.
Was it?
Yeah. Sorry.
I thought he played the saxophone.
Pardon me?
He's not a rapper. He played the saxophone.
Oh, the saxophone. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. I thought you said something else. Okay. Again, do apologize for that, those of you watching the video, but listen to the audio podcast. The whole darn thing will be on there. I promise. Oh, it's been one of those nights, hasn't it?
Oh, we've been having fun.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
You know what this
people-
episode's really missing, though?
What?
A random beeping noise in that hotel room that
know
no
what?
one can locate.
That was the first thing that we made sure that we wouldn't unplug that
It's actually
telephone that's
true.
right over there.
So,
Yeah,
in those terms, the show's been a great success.
That's true.
Absolutely.
Compared to that
I
one.
agree.
Yeah. Until the power cut, it was fine.
Yeah, until the city of Atlanta lost all electrical
Electrical power.
power.
To
Yeah.
all of their MacBook Pros, all at the same time.
Exactly.
You've never heard such a thing. By the way, Thursday, new MacBook Pro being announced. Oh, I can't wait.
Yes, Nick is happy about that. I think he's going to be a new customer.
I'm there, Mr. Apple. Please. You know.
This is from Liz. Liz, I don't know if she's still with us here in the chat room.
I don't think anybody is,
Yeah.
Jeff. I think they've all given up.
Oh,
I don't
Liz,
blame them,
Liz
actually.
is still there. She's the only person left, but she's,
Okay,
she's
well,
still there.
here,
Thanks.
this is for you, Liz. She said, I found this article very disturbing, as your live podcast is as well. Fortunately, I'm not a zillionaire who has the means to rent biz jets. And so she puts in a link to this AIN online article. And you remember the Hanscom Field up in Boston accident, the Gulfstream that crashed back in 2014?
That was a crash.
In that accident, they found that the crew did
Situation.
not perform a flight control check before takeoff, leaving it unaware that the gust lock was engaged. The aircraft crashed on takeoff and all 7 aboard died in the accident. The investigation further revealed that the flight crew failed to complete flight control checks on 98% of the previous 175 takeoffs in the aircraft involved in the accident. As a result of the findings, they recommended that work with industry on a study of the, what's wrong with this sentence? The recommended that work?
Should say they recommended
Yeah.
You sure?
that.
As a result of the findings, they recommended that work with industry. No.
Oh,
That still
no,
doesn't
there's a
work.
lot of things wrong with that sentence.
Yeah. Come on, AIN
So
online.
basically, the
Help me,
industry
Steph.
needs study the extent of non-compliance with pre-takeoff flight checks. And therefore, they then assemble a team comprising business aviation, flight operation, quality assurance, groups and associated vendors, staff, safety committee members, and other safety experts to further study that compliance. There you go.
And did they do it?
I don't know. I didn't get that far.
Yeah. Well, the report
Says
revealed that
they did,
16% of those flights took off with only a partial check of flight controls, meaning that not all control surfaces were found to be checked. Further, there was no flight control check conducted on 2,923 flights, or 2%. A valid flight control check was defined in the report as full deflection control surface movement in each direction, stop to stop. I noticed that sometimes in my airplane, I don't know what your flight control checks are like in the Airbus, but I would imagine it's not a hindrance to do a full stop-to-stop kind of a check with a side stick controller, because it's probably very little motion involved.
Well, it's not, but it's very easy to move the side stick controller, but you've no idea if the flight controls are following.
You don't have like some kind of a readout that
shows?
Okay.
That's what you do. So, and actually, when you, for example, pull full backstick, it takes a significant time. You can hit the backstick in less than a quarter of a second, I guess, but it takes a full second, perhaps second and a half, for the control surfaces to go that far. So you've actually got to have the page up, watch the deflection,
and wait till it goes to full deflection.
Yeah, and the way we conduct our checks is that they're challenge and response. So the guy applies full backstick, and the pilot monitoring, because he's the guy that's doing the flight control check, is also steering the airplane because we're taxiing out. He's the one that calls the position. He won't call full up or full down wherever it's gone until it's actually achieved that. And it takes quite some time. So that flight control check will probably take us 2 or 3 minutes to perform, and we both perform it. So yeah, so
it's a lot simpler on my, because I understand it's, and I'm being serious here. I mean, it's through 2 separate channels on Airbus. That's why the left seater does it, and then the right seater does it. And I believe only the left seater checks the rudder.
Both the rudders are interconnected, so it doesn't matter which of you checks it. The pilot flying deflects them. The pilot monitoring follows through, but it doesn't matter because there's one set of rudders effectively.
Right. And and at least on Boeing, so kind of the way it works is it's the same. You'll and it all depends what your standard operating procedure says. When is it that you're actually going to go through this flight control check? A lot of times it's before you configure the aircraft for takeoff. A lot of times is during the taxi, as Captain Nick said. A lot of times is after the flaps are down. But whatever the case may be, it happens prior to takeoff, because what's the point if you're not, you don't check the flight controls before takeoff? And it's the same thing. You're going to go through the motions of checking the elevator, full up, full down, ailerons, left and right, and also roll spoilers and your rudder. Interesting thing is that on Boeing's, to check the rudder, you actually have to hold the tiller with your hand to keep the nose wheel from turning right and left, because you get to 7 degrees of turn with the rudder pedals alone. And then on Airbuses, you actually have a little button on top of the tiller that's going to disconnect the nose wheel steering. If I'm
now there's an interesting thing about that little button, Rick, because I recall a situation where I was we did our flight control check, so I pressed that button in to disconnect the rudder from the nose wheel steering so I could move the rudder, and I did the rudder checks and then released the button. We taxied onto the runway. During the first part of the takeoff roll, you take your hand off the tiller because now you've got your hand on the stick. I was noticing that it was a little hard to keep the aircraft on the center line. Once we hit about 100 knots, it was easier and easier, because as the rudder aerodynamic force became greater, that was not a problem. Until it was fine, until we landed. And then we came to turn off the runway. And I started to lead the turn by using a bit of rudder at low speed, and the airplane just carried straight on the runway. And I had to grab the tiller and turn and taxi off with the tiller. And I'm going, what's wrong with the rudder? Because normally when you put rudder on, just like on the Boeing, you get an element of nose wheel steering. Now, I snagged the airplane because I discovered that the rudders had no effect on the nose wheel steering. And what had happened was, somebody had had a cup of coffee down by the tiller, and they'd spilt coffee over the tiller, and they hadn't snagged the airplane. They hadn't reported it, and that coffee got into that button. And when I pressed the disconnect button, it disconnected it. When I released it, it stayed disconnected.
It's like a stuck mic.
Exactly right. And from there on, I had no rudder connect with the nose wheel steering, which is fine normally, except that if I had a low speed engine failure, I probably would have departed the runway, because you rely on, when you've got no aerodynamic force going through that rudder, you rely on the nose wheel steering to do it for you. And,
that's right.
Yeah.
No, there's two things on that. The first one is, yes, if you do have an engine failure, and this is, this works, and this is actually a lot more, I guess, critical on 4-engine airplanes, like, the 340 that Captain Nick flies, or the 740 that I fly. When you have an outboard failure, very, very low ground speed, really, before the rudder becomes aerodynamically active, which we're right around 80 knots there. You have to be very mindful of what your engines are doing. And that's why first you spool them up together, make sure they all come up together, and then set your, thruster, toga power, or flex if it's a square bus, and then accelerate down the runway. The other thing there is, as far as that button being pushed and then released, and then the nose wheel steering not engaging again, wouldn't that have been something that was caught on when you do your takeoff configuration check and it says takeoff no blue?
No, it's a non-monitored piece of equipment. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, I was surprised at that too. So,
and now I guess there was a memo that says the captains can't have sugar in their coffee.
Quite right, too. Sweetener only. It's much better for you.
Wow. So,
someone always has to spoil it for the rest of us. Don't they?
Yeah.
Airbuses don't get along with cameras or cups of coffee, apparently.
No, definitely not. But I'm sure the 350 will have it all sorted.
We'll have to find out.
Yeah, can't wait. It's not going to be long.
Woo! I think it's time now for our main man, Micah, to say something.
Perfect.
Hello, Captain Jeff, Dr. Steph, Captain Nick, and to paraphrase Jimmy Durante, hello, Miami Rick, wherever you are. This is your main man, Micah, and I thought I'd send in this piece of feedback that I originally recorded for the Airplane Geeks back on December 23rd show of 2015, episode 382, and it's called Will the Circuits Be Unbroken? And I'm sending this in to you tonight because, well, Captain Jeff, when we had our meetup last week, we sort of discussed low-cost, low-value carriers and a little bit about Allegiant. This has a lot to do with that. So I thought it might be a nice idea to send it in, but I'm setting this up just for you and hope that you might be able to use it. The race to the bottom continues. It's a tough race, a difficult race, fraught with crazy thoughts, new ideas, tight turns, and deceptions. But it's a lot of fun to watch. In fact, it's great to be a spectator. As of the end of October 2015, we have a new entry, and one that's likely to do well: American Airlines. Yes, my fellow airplane geeks, I may have said this before many years ago, and from a slightly different perspective. But with American Airlines' formal entry into the race, this topic deserves another foray. You see, American Airlines plans to offer a low-fare, no-frills service so it can compete with the low-cost carriers. But why? Well, as a contemporary and competitor of P.T. Barnum, a man named David Hannum once said, "There's a sucker born every minute." He was describing Barnum's attitude toward the public. It seems American Airlines can boast that same attitude in their launch of no-frills service. Frankly, it can be said about any of the low-cost carriers. And please note, low cost is in quotes here. Why in quotes? Well, low cost doesn't mean what the public thinks it means. Now, I'm not talking about you, not the regular listeners to this podcast. I'm sure you all know better. I'm talking about maybe the guy next door that wants to take his kids to Disney World in Florida. This guy hears about a low-cost airline with great fares out of Portsmouth, New Hampshire, about an hour drive from here in Portland, Maine. He checks it out and sees he can get a round-trip ticket to Disney World for $145. What a great deal. So he goes to make a reservation. Then he finds out it will cost him an additional $8 to put it on his credit card. Not that there's any other way to pay. They don't take cash or checks, but that's okay. It's a low fare. Adding $8 isn't much more. After that, he sees it's $12 per person if he wants to sit with his family. $2 per soft drink on the plane. And remember, you can't bring along any beverages of your own. It's $25 to check a bag and $18 for a carry-on. That changes the round trip ticket to $267. But still, $267 total? That's not bad. It's a low-fare airline after all. So when he gets to Florida, he finds out he's not in Orlando Airport, MCO, but in the Sanford Orlando Airport, SFB, 50 miles away from Disney World. So now it's another 2 hours round trip in a rental car and more travel costs. Remember, this is the guy next door who knows nothing about airlines. He's not in a loop like you and me. He thinks he's getting a deal based on the P.T. Barnum theory of advertising. So he goes ahead and assumes he got a great price on a low-cost airline. Why does he think that? Well, it's Barnum theorem. He was told it's a low-cost carrier, so it must cost less than the others. But he didn't book his trip on a low-cost carrier. He's on a low-value carrier. That's a big difference. It's the same as when we hear, buy one, get one free, or now at 50% off, or half-price sale. Think about it. Those are meaningless statements. The odds are there's no extra value there at all. I never trust a merchant that tries to sell me on how much I'm saving. I want to know the price I'm paying. Then if I want the product, I'll look to find where it costs least. And that cost must include support. Well, support for lack of a better word anyway, but you know what I mean. The true total cost. That's what determines value. Now let's look at that guy next door again. If he would have simply looked at what was available locally, he would have seen that Southwest offers a fare direct from Portland, Maine to MCO Orlando for $273 inclusive. Well, that's direct with a stop and a change of planes in Baltimore. Nonetheless, $273 inclusive. In fact, if this guy doesn't want to check baggage, he can have that same basic fare for any of the airlines flying PWM to MCO. Why would anyone want to drive an hour to Portsmouth, New Hampshire to travel on a low-value carrier to a place 50 miles distant from their real destination? It bewilders me. But the whole race for the bottom has me confused too. Why not offer service, advertise value, and demonstrate the ridiculous nature of what low-cost carriers really offer? Southwest has started to do this with their transparency campaign. I don't like the made-up word, but it speaks well for the concept of value. Not that Southwest is perfect. They still charge $12.50 per ticket for early bird check-in if you want to choose your seat or sit with family. Alas, though, my guess the race for the bottom will continue. American Airlines has joined it, which means the others can't be far behind. It's disheartening. It seems the airline circus continues as carriers hold to the P.T. Barnum attitude toward the public. As for me, though, I'll continue to fly the best value and try to avoid the circus. So for the airline pilot guy here in Portland, Maine, this is your main man, Micah.
Thank you, Micah, for the very interesting piece of feedback regarding the race to the bottom. And I can only think that you must be talking about podcasts as well.
Just a quick note on Sanford Airport. That's actually where I went to flight school, and it is a little, ways away from all the. Well, I guess it's actually closer to Magic Kingdom that MCO actually is. MCO is closer to the city itself, but it is a bit of a drive, though. I mean, you are kind of in the middle of. I
think MCO is closer, but
is it? Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But isn't that how a lot of low-cost airlines do their business? They don't actually fly to any of that costs them any money.
I've driven from Sanford to the Magic Kingdom, and you go past MCO on the way.
Oh, did? Okay, cool.
Yep.
I did.
Well, I mean, you don't have to go past MCO on the way, but
but if you're looking at the map, basically you're.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
What's funny about that?
You're right. Because I used to do I learned how to do DME arcs around Kissimmee, which is south of. Yeah, you're right. Okay, you're absolutely right.
What's funny about that is my son a few years ago when he was new in Orlando at the University of Central Florida, I had him pick me up from the Orlando International Airport, and I was out there going, what is taking him so long? Well, my son is not very good with directions. And he saw a sign when he got on the, and he was, pretty new to the Orlando area, and he was not familiar with the roads and, which way was north and south and east and west. He got on the, whatever the toll road was, and it said something, it says like Sanford Orlando International. Or it's very confusing, but you have to notice it says Sanford on there, not the regular Orlando International Airport, whatever. And he went all the way up to Sanford before he realized, oh, wait a minute, this is not the Orlando International Airport.
What?
So he had to go all the way back and backtrack and finally pick me up from the airport. But anyway, thank you, son. It was still worth it.
Good effort. Nice try.
Yeah.
No coconut.
Yeah.
Anything else to say about low-cost carriers and the kind of, you have to really look at all the different fees and everything else and, wonder whether or not you're really getting a bargain,
The other thing you have to look at is, of course, how they're operated, what kind of basis they have, how experienced their pilots are. It really depends whether you're just keen on getting from A to B for the least possible cost as you can, pardon me, or whether you want to do it safely and comfortably.
Well, and I think beyond that too, people forget about the time factor involved with a lot of this, and I'm glad Micah brought that up, because even though you think you're getting a great deal, how much is that time worth to you?
Sure.
For me, more and more it becomes, I'd rather, and not everyone has this luxury, and I completely understand that, where you can maybe spend a little bit extra, a couple more dollars up front to shave off that time. But in the end, you have that time that you can use. So if you're going to Disney World with your kids,
Right.
that's less time that you have to spend traveling from point A to point B.
I guess it
point
depends
B
on
to
where
point
you
C.
are in your life. If you're retired
it
and
does.
you have all kinds of time, who cares, right?
If you're a college student, or if you're, maybe college student or student of some sort, and you're just really trying to get from point A to point B, and you have limited funds and resources, and it's not far from where you have to go to take that flight to get to where you want to be. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Tell
Just
you
don't
one
check a
thing,
bag.
though. I mean, flying to Sanford, you're definitely not getting duvets and fine wine. So
No.
I'm sorry, Nick.
And the taxi fares will probably be quite big.
Mm-hmm.
But the rental cars are cheap.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Love America.
2607, hold short of runway 279 at Texas Tango.
Hold short of 279 at Tango, Delta 2607.
2607, thank you, monitor 123.85.
207 traffic holding in position at Tango cross runway 279, lane, contact ground 175. Okay, we'll contact ground on the inside point to the side, 279, we're clear cross, Tango joint Lima, Delta 2607. Get out of the toilet. Say again.
What?
I guess get out of the toilet. It goes on. I saw this on liveatc.net. I occasionally look through there to see if there are any funny or interesting.
It's not a fabrication.
No, that's real. So apparently this guy, it sounds like he's talking through a tube or something.
Yeah.
And it goes on. If you listen to the whole thing, ground control says, Delta 2607, there's something wrong with your transmission. It sounds very hollow. And he goes, yeah, I don't know what's going on. It just started doing that after we landed. I just love the guy going, get out of the toilet.
I love it. Targo, say again.
That's classic.
Yeah, that's kind of like something I'd probably say. It's hard sometimes not to say something really sarcastic.
Excuse me.
Oh, and then finally, we're getting close to the end here. We have Paul in Florida writes in APG 242, which was the last episode. Captain Nick told the story of the glider built by POWs in order to escape from Colditz prison in World War II. I already knew about this because it had been made into a movie. The TV movie Colditz Escape of the Birdmen was made in 1971 and starred Doug McClure, Richard Basehart, and Chuck Connors. The differences from the real story were, 1, they actually did use it to escape. Number 2, some of the prisoners were American. 3, well, it was an American TV movie. Yeah. Come on. And an additional character was added, a nuclear physicist played by Rene Auberjonois.
Of course, a nuclear physicist. That's just what you need.
Yeah, well, of course. It makes it much more interesting.
Why not?
The Germans did not know this character's identity, and the prisoners decided it was top priority to escape because of his knowledge of German bomb plans. Got to spice it up a little bit, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But everything else, including the false wall and the bathtub catapult, were as Nick described. The movie is available on DVD from Amazon. The acting is not top notch. Richard Basehart as a German officer? ? But not too bad for a TV movie.
How many squashed tomatoes, Paul?
Well,
yeah.
That's very good. No, I have actually seen that movie. So it was a while ago now, but I don't think I'm going to give it any critical acclaim. But yeah, it was interesting. There have been a few stories, mainly documentaries, all about the story. But it's nice that some people have heard about it, so that's great.
And well, the DVD can be used as a coaster primarily. So
that's true.
Absolutely,
a lot of uses for those DVDs. And one more before we end the show. Captain Ollie. He says, "Hi all. Recently there was an FO that sent an ACARS message to our ops. We had 2 wheelchair C, 1 wheelchair S, and 1 deaf passenger, which didn't really have to be sent. Unfortunately, he was not a primary English speaker, so the message went out as 1 death. Subsequent messages received, as you can imagine, were quite panicked." Safe flying, Captain Ollie.
Wow.
Yeah, send in 2 chairs and 1 deaf. Roger, right. 1 deaf.
Yeah, send 2 chairs and a coffin.
Yep.
Lovely.
Just bring the bag. It'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
As little fanfare as possible, please.
I'm impressed that they actually read the ACARS messages. I think that usually when we send in an in-range report to let them know how many chairs and whatever,
yep.
I don't know if anybody actually at Acme Airlines ever reads those. In fact, somebody was so convinced that nobody ever reads these messages that he would put in there, and if you're reading this, come to gate blah blah blah, I'm Captain so-and-so, I'll give you $20. And he has not yet had to give $20 to anyone.
Well, I tell you, I have another story regarding wheelchairs back in my passenger days. It was funny. We used to do a nonstop from Guayaquil to New York, and on the flight out of Guayaquil, there would be 20, 25 people in wheelchairs boarding the airplane. And so obviously the same number of wheelchairs was requested to operations once we got in range of JFK for the descent and landing, so these passengers could comfortably deplane the aircraft and be on their merry way. But apparently the catering was miraculous, because by the time we would land, all these passengers would just get up and walk off the airplane, and not a single wheelchair was required. Apparently, they were in such a hurry to get off the airplane that all these passengers forgot that they had, requested their wheelchairs, and so nobody used them. Yep,
that never happened. We always say another miracle.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like, what?
That rarefied air just does amazing things to these passengers that require a wheelchair to get on the airplane so they can be loaded first, but they don't want to wait to be the last to get off the airplanes.
No, I think when I get there, I'm gonna be all right. I'll have had plenty of time to sit and rest, whatever my orthopedic or disabling condition is. I'm gonna be fresh legs, good to go.
There you go.
Don't bother with the wheelchair.
There's your
thank you, but no thank you.
Yeah. Which reminds me, Steph, how are your toes doing? Have your toenails fallen off yet?
They haven't fallen off. 2 of them are black and blue, and 1 is kind of bruised-ish looking.
Well, I haven't fallen off.
They're fine.
Okay.
No.
I thought if they fell off, you could auction them on behalf of the APG.
Ooh,
make some money.
There's a good idea. We'll put it on eBay.
Speaking of making money, if you want to help support the show,
of course, Jeff,
head over to airlinepilotguide.com/
APG.
No coffee. Come on, Nick. With the program. airlinepilotguide.com/
coffee.
Thank you. And you can also find out on the website all about the APG crew, the APG community, different ways you can watch and listen to the show, YouTube, all the different radios, Stitcher, iTunes, and all that kind of stuff. Also a way for you to send feedback to the show. If you're just listening, you don't want to go to the site, you want to send feedback at airlinepilotguide.com will do the trick. You can also use the SpeakPipe functionality on the website and record your lovely voice, your dulcet tones, and we can
don't
hear
be
what
shy.
you have to say. Yeah.
We all sound like idiots.
Yeah, trust me. The more you listen to your own voice, the more you'll get used to the way you sound. And I'm still not used to the way Captain Nick sounds, but that's another story.
To be fair, none of us are. Yeah.
But let's see, what else? Steph, how about telling us about how they can kind of follow us on social media?
So, good question. If you are on Twitter, you can follow all four of us together at APG Crew on Twitter. There is a Facebook page, which is attended to mostly by Jeff and Nick, I think, at this point. You never know. Rick and I might stop by there every once in a while, but that's facebook.com/airline pilot guy.
What she's saying,
yeah, that's exactly what she's saying.
Cool kids aren't Facebook.
If you want to go look at the Facebook page.
I was trying to be apologetic for my lack of interaction there, but
okay.
that failed.
We took it the wrong way, I guess. Sorry.
You did. Way to be overly sensitive, guys.
I'm so sensitive.
And where was I? There's this app called Slack, and there's a kind of perpetual chat room going on there. We stop in from time to time if you'd like to be a part of that. If you're not already, get in touch with Hillel, APG community member, on Twitter. Tweet him. His Twitter handle is at HI11E1, and you'll have to send him your email address to get an invite. So that covers most of the social media, I think.
Yeah, and we also have an app, Airline Pilot Guy. Look on the iOS App Store or the Google Play Store.
I must do that, Jeff, because
you should do that.
I actually have the app.
I was gonna say that. It's like, Nick should probably download that.
When it stopped working, I thought, I'll delete this useless thing.
Yeah, and occasionally we'll send out push notifications.
They may or may not be correctly spelled, but
sometimes they happen in the middle of the show, so stay on your toes if you want.
We're going to really focus on that aspect of the app in the future.
I'm very glad to hear it, Jeff.
Thank you. I'm so glad as well. And you know what I'm really glad about? That I was able to be with you in person in your lovely hotel room with the duvet pulled up to my neck and the champagne by all the beautiful attendants here at the hotel.
Hundreds of them. You can see them all crowding around.
Yes, and having all four of us together. Steph, always a pleasure to have you on the show, and Rick, it's always a treat to be able to have you on with all of us at the same time. So thank you for making time for us.
Oh, absolutely. It was great to be on here again. It's going to be an interesting week. Recurrent flight training tomorrow, and then off to wherever the 747 will take me.
Good luck with your recurrent training.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll do great.
Yeah, should be all right. Hopefully,
no worries at all for you.
All right.
And,
remember, it's got 4 engines. 4 engines.
All right. Well, with that, I guess it's time to end the show. And as we like to say, wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care, and God bless.
Good night, everybody.
See you all soon again. Woo-hoo.
Take care, y'all.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Oh, I forgot to record this.
Oh, damn.
Dang it.
Well, I'm going to have to do it all over again. Crack another beer, Jeff.
What was your
I'll
beer
just call in
tonight,
sick
Nick?
for my trip tomorrow.
every time I looked up, you were drinking a different beer. I was like, what is going on there?
We like variety.
We have. We've got Sierra Nevada. We've got some
Orpheus.
Yes. And there is a third beer here somewhere, which I'm
it's over there. I can see it over there. The Terrapin hot
Terrapin.
That's a good one.
Oh, hot executioner. Yep, very nice.
Yeah.
Good spread.
So we're
all in
nuts. And Jeff has been eating Marmite.
Well, yep, Marmite popcorn, which is kind of odd.
Apparently delicious. No one would have guessed.
That's why we declared independence. All those 200 years ago. Stay away from that crap.
Look, Marmite, we're out.
Marmite's good for you.
It has nutritional value.
It's health food.
It's good for your anemia. Okay, good.
It is very good for you. And it tastes good too. It's yummy.
I'm going to have to be up
full of umami
in just not too long. So I guess I better
Jeff's got the
end everything and pack all this equipment up and get on the train and head home.
If it's going to take as long as it took him to unpack it, we'll be here for a while.
Yes, we will.
Best wishes to you guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
cheers,
guys.
Jeff. Hey,
Thanks,
great to see you, Rick. Pleasure.
See you guys. Oh,
All
great
the
to see
best.
you guys again. See you guys again very
All
soon.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Everybody.
All right. Cheers, everybody.
Good night.
Bye,
Bye
chat
now.
room.
See
Yeah.
ya.